In almost every culture, stories about the trickster archetype. Uh, the trickster archetype existed before Jung wrote about it, but it became popularized or formalized by Jung. It existed in most of the cultures. Take, for example, the figure of Krishna, the young Krishna in the Hindu mythology, the Narad Muni in Hindu mythology. I will be drawing a lot of references from Hindu mythology just because of the sheer size of it enables a huge variety of characters and archetypes to exist in that bed of mythology. Uh, the Shiva actually takes the form of a cosmic trickster. Vikram and Vidal from Vidal Pachisi Tales. The Vidal is a trickster figure. He is not a fool. The fool and the trickster have a very minute but very subtle but an apparent difference. Vedal is no fool because he asks questions. Asking questions is not a characteristic of a fool. He is a trickster. Asuras and Rakshasas are like the classic example of a trickster figure because they trick the main three deities, which are abstract forms rather than physical entities like the Vedic gods. They trick them to change basically the status quo for some time. Particularly, this video is about the Native American tribe in Nebraska called the Winnebago or the Winnebago, however you want to pronounce it. In the Winnebago tradition of Native America, the trickster is a greedy, foolish, and sometimes funny character. So basically, like a hobbit. A hobbit is a good example. What Jung envisioned while formalizing or categorizing these archetypes was that to explain human behavior in particular categories through psychological stages of psychological development. Uh, so in Jung psychology, the trickster is an archetype, a symbol of the unconscious shadow that the brain has. Not the brain, the personality would be a better word. The personality has an unconscious shadow, which takes the form of a trickster. The trickster comes after the divine child or the pair eternus. When the psychology matures from the pair eternus, at the next stage it acquires as a trickster archetype. Uh, One movie that I like, which displays this very bluntly, I mean, there is no harmony between the evolution, is this movie called Krantivir. It is a very old Bollywood movie starring, I think, Nana Patekar. The first half of the movie, before the village burns down, depicts a very classical trickster archetype. That man laughs at every tragedy. He has a very cryptic philosophy around enabling people to help. So he is the kind of figure that influences people to act on their own, to act in their own self-interest. But he rarely takes any personal accountability for anything that these people do. And so when the evil politician villains burn his village down, he suddenly has a change and he evolves into the hero archetype. I think it was a good movie. It is a very corny movie to be honest, but the symbolism is very blatant and apparent. Good for an analysis. So in this video, I hope to explore how the myths of the Winnebago people and the Jungian interpretation of the trickster collide basically. So in the Winnebago stories, trickster is called, I think, Jung Kaga. Jung Kaga. I think this is an African accent, but I don't care. So he's a wanderer, a glutton, and a fool. So there is one tale that describes him eating so much that he can't even move, only to suffer for his own greed. And I think he later dies because he was immobilized. Uh, I I apologize for these many detours, but the trickster archetype is very apparent. I mean, it is very easy to find at the edges of your personality, edges of decisions, basically. So, and it has a necessary purpose. That necessary purpose being it requires a trickster. So I mean, in common folk language, when we say that this man has no self-awareness, that he's totally naive, kind of like the character of Superman in the new movie, but in the James Gunn movie, he's very naive because he does not have that aspect of the trickster in him. or he has suppressed that aspect of the trickster in him because he is very naive. It takes a trickster to analyze, to predict, or to understand the tricks being played on him. So even if you do not act on those trickster impulses, it is important to know when you are being tricked. So that is basically one of the most necessary, one of those reasons why this archetype exists in the first place. Uh, if you believe in the notion of biological determinism, you or the evolutionary psychology, you would claim that this is a really good survival strategy. That having a trickster archetype and prevents you from being scammed or fooled. Uh, the trickster depicts human weakness, desire, and foolishness, which can bring suffering, but also bring understanding. The mistakes that the trickster makes acts as warnings, but they also make us reflect on our own flaws, basically. So one of the how do I frame it? The problem with this modern obsession with discipline, and there is also a trend called a performative male, is that people are unable to analyze or to understand the tricks they are playing on themselves. So they would like to proclaim that they, I mean, take the social media for example. If you Google Oppenheimer, you would find people romanticizing the aspect of physics. They want to aspire to have that identity associated with a physicist or a mathematician, but they would never actually put in the amount of work that it requires to aspire that identity. And that is why it appears performative. Like if you listen to a particular song for for female approval, you do not understand the actual conditions that the person who actually discovered it or likes it holds. There is this common element why some people would like X movie over Y movie. It has some message that resonated with them, and that resonation appeared after a shared experience. But if someone else decides that it is trendy or hoppy, that it gets female approval, which becomes a sexual selection strategy, it becomes performative. Essentially, you are playing a trick on yourself. You're lying to yourself. That and the whole concept of discipline is or procrastination is that you lie to yourself. You constantly justify it. You claim that you will do X work later, Y work later. You're tricking yourself. You know it deep down that you're not going to do that. You're not going to perform that action, but you would delay it in hopes that you will eventually do it, but you would never will. You're tricking yourself. So the trickster archetype not only analyzes the tricks being played on you, but it actually the more important purpose is to see that the tricks you are playing on yourself, and this creates a disparity in your psychology. I mean, this creates a cognitive dissonance, and through dream symbolism the archetype resolves itself. That goes into another aspect of why dreams or symbols appear in the first place. But trickster is a symbol, uh, is a symbol of is a symbol of warnings, reflections, and things of that sort. A chaotic symbol. It breaks rules, violates order, and exposes hidden drives. So, this concept of exposing hidden drives, that mean it takes an evil person to know the evil acts that he is being orchestrated to perform. Take for example Niccolo Machiavelli. This is a really good example. It took a man with a high degree of Machiavellian traits to understand that empires are not run by ideals or morals. It in fact has a very practical aspect to it. And during that time, when he wrote the book and the book became sort of popular in Europe, he was claimed the child, the devil's child himself, uh, which I think justifies my comparison. The parts of Jung argued that this figure is linked to the shadow, the repressed part of you, the repressed part of the personality, the parts of ourselves we repress or ignore. In mythology and dreams, Trickster appears as the clown, the coyote, the prankster, the one who cannot be controlled. He is disturbing but also creative because he forces us to confront what we usually deny. Now, the Winnebago, I don't know, this video isn't about Winnebago at this point. I think it is more about the Trickster archetype. But this Native American tribe, I caught wind of this association that this tribe essentially worships a deity that through and through is a trickster archetype, the Jungaka. The only material I could find about this was a single line from Jung's book, Man and Its Symbol. And there is a very cryptic video. I'm very bad at editing, but I hope I can paste a screenshot of that. It's a very cryptic video with about 160 views of a woman narrating a tale with a chinchilla in it. And then, it is a 15-year-old video. When we place Jung's ideas beside the Winnebago tales or the mythology, the overlap becomes clear. The trickster's greed in the story is a symbol of unconscious desires breaking through. His foolish mistakes mirror our own blind spots. His cosmic disasters, he is a deity, are like dreams that expose truths we do not want to face. For Jung, trickster is the first stage of the psyche becoming self-aware. Uh, so we had the pair eternus, that shows hints of being self-awareness. The man suffering from this pair eternus syndrome actually questions his existence for the first time. He becomes aware that he exists. So I read this line in a Harishankar Prasad novel. I think it went by अपना अपने व्यक्तित्व जानने से पहले अपना अस्तित्व जान लेना. I mean that is the first sign of the man becoming aware that he exists, that he takes up physical space. He misuses that physical space, of course, the Eternus figure, but the trickster figure actually shows signs of actually bending these roles for his own favor, and he performs some mistakes. Obviously, he develops a code to avoid these mistakes, and this later evolves into the hero archetype. So trickster is the first stage of the psyche becoming self-aware. For the Winnebago, trickster's failures makes us laugh, but also makes us wise. In both, disorder is not meaningless; it is a path towards growth. The trickster lives in both ancient tales and in modern psychology. He is the fool who makes mistakes so that we can see our own. He is the shadow that disturbs order so that transformation can begin. Transformation into the hero archetype. There are multiple archetypes after the hero. He is not a conclusive figure, but uh, he is the central point there. I mean, that is associated with the development of the prefrontal cortex and the physical maturity. Whether we hear him in Winnebago myths or Jung's writing, Trickster reminds us that sometimes chaos is the teacher of wisdom.